Welcome everybody to the BINDT Spotlight Talk. My name is Gary Elliott. I'm currently the chairman of the Certification Management Committee, and the talk today is on CP16 update, requirements for renewing PCN certification. And I'd like you to please use the question and answer facility to ask questions, and we'll try and get through all the questions and answer them all at the end of this talk. Can I now introduce you to Patrick Bolton, who is the senior technical certification engineer for PCN, and he's going to give you a talk, and then we'll have question and answers afterwards. Patrick.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Karen, just before I move forward, can I just confirm that you can see my first slide, which is entitled
We
PCN and CP16?
Yes, we can, Patrick.
Thank you ever so much. Well, yeah, everybody on today's call, welcome. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to today's Spotlight Talk from BINDT. As Gary said, my name's Patrick Bolton. I'm one of the technical and certification engineers here at the Institute, and it's one of my it's one of today's privileges and pleasures to be able to give you some information on CP16 PCN requirements and how to complete forms. Before I do that, I'd like to give you some background information about who's with us on the call today. So if we go through some introductions, as I say, I'm Patrick Bolton. From the Technical and Industrial Department here at the Institute, we've also got Howard Garlick, who's one of the technical and certification engineers. And we've also got Joe Highgold present today, who's also one of the technical and certification engineers. And we work closely with one another. From the PCN Certification Records Office and Management team, we've got Jennifer Cook, who is the certification manager. And we've also got with us today Tracy Grant, who manages the team who provide all the certificates to you guys from BINDT's Certification Records Office. So we're here, and hopefully between us, we'll be able to answer any questions that you guys have at the end of the session. So today's Spotlight Talk, I've got some presentation objectives that I'd like to share with you today, and I'd like to really just give you some background information that we're going to give you a brief overview of the requirements that PCN must meet to provide aspirant PCN certificate holders with details of how they can fulfill their certification requirements. And obviously, you guys already know that certification is issued in accordance with ISO 9712, which is a third-party certification scheme within the field of NDTs. So what we're actually going to be doing today is I'm going to be giving you a brief presentation. So this will be phase one of the objectives today. And my objectives are really to give you an introduction onto how PCN works, what BINDT has to comply with, all the requirements and audit processes that are bestowed upon us from the likes of UKAS, and we'll go through this in a little bit more detail as we move through the presentation. Phase two of the presentation really is provided by Howard Garlick, and Howard Garlick is going to take you through how we can successfully complete various forms that are required for you to apply for certification, such as CP16. Phase three of today's Spotlight presentation will then run into a question and answer session. So both myself, Howard, Joe, Jennifer will form a panel, and we'll come together at the end of the presentation to interact with you guys and answer any questions that you may have. So as I'm sure you're all aware, NDT ensures the integrity of components and systems within key industry sectors such as aerospace, the oil and gas sector, the power generation sector, within the manufacturing industries that operate within the UK and also globally, and also across other industry sectors such as the underground systems and the rail network. But one thing in common, or one thing that all these sectors have in common, is that we provide a means to competency for you guys to go away and deploy the various NDT methods and techniques in across radiography, eddy current, penetrant testing, visual testing, etc., to all those sectors to ensure that the integrity of the components, systems, and structures remain safe and compliant with industry standards that are deployed within those sectors themselves. So as I said earlier, I'm kind of here today to examine some relationships, and those relationships we'd like to look at, or I would like to look at, and just give you a little bit of background information on are the ISO standards that that BINDT and PCN work in accordance with. So that ISO standard is 9712, and how we transitioned from the 2012 version to 2022, and the certification that we offer now is issued in accordance with PCN24. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the presentation. I'd also like to give you some brief background information on TS25108. And 25108 really gives us information on how we build training requirements. And I'd also like to look at TS25107, which is how we build a PCN syllabus. So when you go to an ATO or an AQB, your syllabus is actually taught and produced by PCN in accordance with 25107. I'd also look at the PCN certification system, PCN24, and I'd also like to fill you guys in on how BINDT as an organisation receives its accreditation from the United Kingdom Advisory Service. So there's lots of things we can look at today. So as you're probably aware, BINDT itself is an independent certification body. And we're audited, or we provide certification or audited against ISO 17024. So UKAS come into the British Institute of Non-Destructive Testing, and they look at all our certification systems, our procedures, and ensure that we provide certification in accordance with those procedures and requirements. Now, BINDT provides certification impartially, and we do this by operating a network of approved training organisations and also authorised qualifying bodies. So this is our element of impartiality. So these organisations actually use our internal network of procedures, PCN appendices, to go away and provide you with the training and also the examinations and the element of competence that before your certificate is issued to you. Those guys do this against recognised standards. So one of those recognised standards is ISO 9712, and again we'll have a brief conversation on 9712 as we move through the presentation, and that allows BINDT itself to issue a certification to you under the PCN banner. So that, in a very brief nutshell, is how the institute operates and how we put a certification program together. So with regards to building that PCN24 certification program, we do this against a standard, and that standard is BSEN ISO 9712. So all the requirements that you see within the PCN24 appendices documents are actually driven by BSEN ISO 9712 and not by BINDT and PCN. So we use ISO 9712 as the background standard, which enables us to provide you with the PCN appendices documents that you work towards reaching or achieving certification within. And the standard itself is applicable to certification bodies, end users, BINDT PCN certificate holders, approved training organisations, AQBs, and also employees and practitioners. So moving forward, no matter which certification body you are receiving certification from, and that could be CoFriend, the French certification body, it could be the Japanese certification body, JSNDI, the Germans, DGZFP, or possibly even through ASNT and their newly implemented ISO 9712 scheme. So whichever certification body you actually apply for certification through, all those certification bodies are driven by that one standard, ISO 9712. So that's just something I think we need to keep in the back of our minds. So how is ISO 9712 produced? Well, it's produced by a cohort or a number of member countries, and BINDT represent the UK. So BINDT on the ISO review committee have one vote out of currently 33 participating countries. So there are 33 voting countries on the ISO technical panel, and there are also 14 observing members that all have an input into developing ISO 9712 to produce the standard that all the bodies pin their certification documents to. So BINDT itself actually feed into ISO through BSI. So BINDT work in accordance with a standards committee here at the Institute. We work with a gentleman called Graham Stockley, who then represents us as an organisation, and that's how we feed into ISO. Jennifer and myself also sit on the ISO certificate, some of the ISO certification panels to develop such things as 9712. However, during the past or over the past 3 or 4 years, that's been somewhat of a difficult process due to the geographical political issues that are currently being experienced throughout the world in regards to the Ukraine and the Russian war. So we've been given a mandate through our solicitors that whereby if Russian participation is present during any of these meetings, then unfortunately we're not allowed to comment. But we've got so many comments that we're listening to people feed into the Institute that we need to take back to ISO to try and revise and update the standard that's in place at the moment, 9712/2022, in preparation for the next iteration. So I just thought it was important that you were aware of how the PCN certification scheme is produced, what standards it's produced against, and and our obligations both to you, to ISO, and to UKAS. So in preparation to move the BINDT appendices documents from compliance with 9712/2012 to 9712/2022, i.e. moving from the legacy certification system to PCN24, then BINDT's certification management committee provided us with a remit to form a working group in order for that piece of work to take place. And when we talk about the Certification Management Committee here at the Institute, we're talking about a committee that consists of, or in excess of 50% industry members. So they gave us the remit to move forward and produce the new documents. So 9712 itself is a global standard, and it helps us produce the certification appendices documents under PCN24. Those documents reflect 9712. And it gives us information about the certification levels that we need to offer, and also the syllabus that sits behind the training that you guys receive at an approved training organisation. And those syllabuses are put together against another document called Technical Specification 25107. So 25107 gives us the framework on how we build the PCN Z1 syllabus. The document also talks about practical industry experience and how that's moved from hours to days under PCN24. It lists the product sectors and industry sectors that we're typically certified against. And it also gives us information on the theory and the practical examinations that we have to take. And within the new system, the practical and examinations are now termed elements. And one benefit that the latest revision has brought to us is that the requirement to provide a detailed written instruction has now been provided as its own standalone element. So previously, if you'd failed the written instruction, you would have had to have taken all the practical examination again, which included practical testing of specimens. But now, if you fail a written instruction, then you only have to actually complete the requirements to resit that exam element for written instructions. It also provides information on the specimen quantities and the types that you're expected to sit, and also provides us with some requirements for ATOs and AQBs. And we use internal documents CP08 and CP09 to provide the training organisations with the requirements that they need to work against. Now, some of our drivers were that we wanted to simplify the certification process. We've got some long-term objectives as well. And currently we're working on the PCN web page. So this is somewhat of a long-term project, but there'll be some real good benefits at the end of this long-term project that we're implementing, and hopefully some easier PCN application forms that should hopefully self-populate and stop the duplicity, if you like, and the tedium of having to complete PCN application forms. So we wanted to ensure also that the candidate only views the documents that are applicable to him or her. We wanted to make greater use of modern technology, i.e. the new website. And also we wanted to make the documents engaging and also informative. So as you can see on the screen at the moment, we've got a copy, an example of a cover sheet of one of the PCN documents, PCN24 Gen in this instance. And the document that we've produced provides a new baseline for us that we can measure requirements against moving forward. It complies with ISO 9712-2022. We've reduced the number of appendices documents that any one person would see on the BINDT website. This is an example of our new shop window, for want of a better word. Now, on the website itself, the candidate will see a web-facing document which provides information on the scope of the document, links to other associated documents such as the Z1 syllabus. It provides detailed employer responsibilities, in so much so that if a person is issued with a certificate, it's actually the employer's responsibility to authorise the individual to operate. So even though you're issued with an NDT certificate, the employer still has to provide the element of authorization for you to operate. It provides, sorry, let me go back. It also provides details on the certification available, product industry sectors, and typically what kind of specimens in examination content you would be expected to sit at an AQB. Sitting behind this document, which you don't have sight to, are the ATO and the AQB documents, which go into a little bit more depth and greater detail about the examinations that you actually physically sit. And they talk about additional things such as the defects that might appear in any one of the specimens, and the various how the examinations are graded, and also the full examination content, just as examples. So we can see now how the PCN scheme of documents are building. In the 9712 is our enabling standard. It's produced in accordance with a syllabus. We then develop the candidate-facing documents and also the AQB requirements documents. So the PCN24 transition. So hopefully all organisations now, or ATOs and AQBs, will have actually made the move to PCN24, and the certification that you're being issued with will be against the ISO 9712-2022 requirements. Some of the 9712 requirements have been put in place to ensure that candidates have prior knowledge of such things as mathematics and product technology before they actually are able to sit an NDT method course. Now, you'll notice that mathematics is greyed out, and that's relatively easy to confirm through prior education, GCSEs, A-levels, degrees, etc. But the product technology element was somewhat more difficult for us to produce and confirm. So the BINDT Certification Management Committee actually tasked BINDT with producing a product technology learning module to ensure that the candidates had that element of product technology knowledge before they appear at one of the approved training organisations for training. So this in itself is not a PCN requirement again. It's a requirement that ISO 9712 bestows upon us to ensure that is in place. And that was the reason why we put the product technology package together. The package itself sits on a learning management system. And hopefully over time, we're going to be putting some additional training packages into this system for mathematics for those persons who possibly don't have the required qualifications sitting behind them. So we're hopefully going to be populating the current learning management system that's operated through Wilkinson Coutts with additional training packages. The product technology course itself ensures that the candidate has prior knowledge of products and materials, fabrication processes, and the associated in-service and fatigue life defects that might manifest, and also defects which have also manifested during the manufacturing process. It was produced in accordance with an industry-led syllabus, which included information on metals, additive manufacturing, and non-metals. And the material itself is actually modern, up-to-date, and fresh. So you'll see on the screen there's a light blue arrow at one side of the screen and then a darker blue arrow on the other side of the screen. And the package has been designed to enable the candidate to ensure that they've spent the required amount of time within the section, on the page, within the module itself before they're allowed to move on. And as I say, this element for product technology is now live and available on the website. Where the candidate passes the product technology course, they're issued with a certificate. And if you see on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, there's a QR code. So for anybody possessing a mobile phone with a camera on, if you were to hover over the QR code and click on the QR code, it would then link you back into BINDT's certification portal, and you would be able to demonstrate to any future employer that you've actually hold or are a holder of a valid certificate. To date, we've had over 1,080 candidates successfully complete the module for product technology. And within 2026 alone, January, February, we've had in excess of 340 candidates log on to the system itself. So we've had some good reports and some good feedback of how this is giving people a wider knowledge before they actually join any NDT course. Another update that we'd like to provide information on today is that we will be producing a limited certification scheme, which was ISO 2807 for the testing of manufactured wrought plates for planar defects, inclusions, and thickness measurement. So in conjunction with a request from industry, we've decided to migrate this over to 9712 because 9712 2022 says that we can actually do that. So the draft documents are in place and hopefully will be released for use very shortly. We're also working with other organisations, Laser Optical Engineering in Leicester, to provide new certification schemes for marine chirography of composites and also marine composites. So this is something that hopefully we'll be releasing in 2026. And what we also need to consider is how we update PCN Aero against revised requirements. So not only was ISO 9712 released in 2022, but now we've had a new issue of EN 4179, which was released in December of 2025, actually. So what we need to do there is also do the gap analysis between the two standards and also revise PCN Aerospace as well, which, might I add, the UK NENDT also lends its support to. So this is something to look forward to seeing being revised in the not too distant future. We've also been tasked to look at Industry 4.0 and the skills that an individual may need to consider. So as the technology moves forward with reference to artificial intelligence, we need to consider the qualifications that a level 1 or level 3 certificate holder may need to hold to look to expand their knowledge. So this is something that we'll be considering in 2026 So we're just starting to dip our toes in the water and ask the relevant questions and put a working group together to see if we can't look to produce something that could possibly populate the learning management system that we talked of earlier. Part of this process will be future use of simulation. And if you look at the left-hand screen, this is where I started my NDT career on a Sonotest UFD 7A. But the right of the screen now gives us some far more advanced information about where the beam path is actually sitting within the component, etc., and where the typical defects are that that are sitting within components. So simulation is going to play an active part in how we move the certification process forward. And with regards to this, we'd typically be considering such devices as synthetic training devices. So here we can see on the screen, for the purposes of practical testing, we can see an iPad, and the operator is testing a weld. It's not the same as testing a real component. As we can all imagine, ultrasonics is a very touchy-feely experience, but this is something that we could look to consider for prior knowledge of components that you might go out to test on site or as part of an employer-based training program as well. And coupled with this synthetic element of testing, we're also needing to look at virtual reality, so we don't put engineers in harm's way before they go out to test components on an oil rig or on an aircraft, etc. So we're just starting to feel our way through how we might utilize these within the next iteration of PCN's certification system. And of course, with all these considerations, we need to ensure that PCN remains compliant with both ISO 9712 and ISO 17024. So ISO 17024 is the standard that the British Institute of Non-Destructive Testing is audited against. And the people that audit the Institute against that standard, which allows us to provide you with the certification packages that are out there sitting on the shelves at the moment, or should I say on BINDT's website, are UKAS, the United Kingdom Accreditation Service. And these guys are a national accreditation body. They're appointed by government to assess and accredit organisations that provide services such as certification, testing, inspection, calibration, validation, etc. So in effect, this is our governance factor that says we're doing things correctly, and what we put on BINDT's website and the certificates that we issue to you are indeed issued correctly in accordance with 9712. If you were to go onto the UKAS website and type in the British Institute of Non-Destructive Testing, you would actually, or our accreditation number 030, you would then be able to do that, close that circle to ensure that, or make your checks and balances to ensure that you're happy that the Institute has been accredited against a government body. So this, in effect, is our badge of honour, our kind of certificate of authenticity. So in a very short space of time, I just wanted to take you through the operation here at BINDT, how we produce the PCN certification documents, just to give you some a greater feeling of what we do behind the scenes. So my details are on the screen, along with Howard's, Joe's, Jennifer's and Tracy's. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you have in a certification panel after the next presentation, which Howard Garlick will be providing very shortly. So I'd like to say thank you for your time, thank you for listening, and hope to see you all answer your questions at the end of this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. I've been answering some questions as we've been on the meeting. I don't see any others in the Q&A at the moment.
Okay, shall I continue then with the CP16? Yeah, okay. Everyone see the right slide now?
Yeah, we've got it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, perfect.
Perfect. Hello everybody, my name is Howard Garlick. I'm one of the technical and certification engineers at BINDT. I've got the pleasure of running through some of the particulars of the CP16 document. So, okay, so to start off with, Patrick's already run through an overview of ISO 9712 and 17024. Now, much of what you see in CP16 is extrapolated directly from ISO 9712, and we're limited into how much we can change it. Generally speaking, we have to go back to ISO and request that they formally change anything. In particular, in 9712, we've got clause 10, which refers to renewals. Clause 11 deals with recertification, and they both direct you onto Annex C, which is the credit system. This is the table C1, which is the main part really of Annex C. And in here, sorry, I'll just get the pointer on. Okay, so this is broken down into 3 levels. We've got level 1, level 2, and level 3. Now these are all for renewal, except for level 3, where this one can be used twice. This is used for renewal and recertification, and so we'll run through what the differences are in those two in a second. So we can't change anything to do with this. So this is extrapolated and then placed into the CP16 document. To make it a little bit easier to interpret and to use, the CP16 breaks it down into a level 1, which is the R1 document, the level 2 R2 table, and the level 3, which is 3RA and 3RB. And we have to comply with this in terms of our own accreditation, which is, again, auditable. Okay, also in Annex C, we have this C2.2 section, which is referencing our need to gather evidence to support the claims from the document. So up here it's got, in order to assess the activities specified, the certification body may request from an individual seeking renewal of all level 3 recertification evidence to demonstrate compliance. And there's a list of the different documents here that may be requested. It also says at the bottom that this basically isn't an exhaustive list. There are other things that we can seek. Sometimes it's just submitted evidence confirmed by the employer. So again, this is a requirement of Annex C in 9712. Now it does say may up at the top, may request. So we don't always have to request, but in terms of our own accreditation, which is then again auditable by UKAS, and also in alignment with our quality system in terms of ISO 9001, where we have to look at competence documents and use those for evidence-based decision making. And so a lot of the time this becomes essential. So it is an inconvenience when you are asked for reports to support your application, but it is necessary in the greater scheme of things in terms of maintaining BINDT's accreditation, which again maintains the PCN scheme as well. So first off is in this section is renewal versus recertification. What's the difference really? For the most part, you can consider renewal to be after 5 years of holding the certificate. So if your certificate is on an issue 1, then at the 5-year point, then you would normally go through a renewal process. And so this is using the point system, using the CP16. You do have the option to use the recertification, and that is by doing a practical examination for levels 1 and 2. And the difference being, if you use the renewal system, then it moves the certificate to an issue 2 for the next 5 years. Now, when it's on an issue 2, the only option then is to go back to recertification. So you can only renew by points once every 10 years. And that's what's at the bottom here. Issue 2 certificate, 10-year, requires recertification, which is a practical examination. So this is for level 1 and level 2. Now, for level 3, this differs slightly. And so renewal for an issue 1, okay, is by going through the point system. Recertification is by doing an examination. So the theory part of the examination, which is parts B, the open book examination on the PCN GenDoc requirements, and the part E, the specific theory examination. So 10 questions on one, 20 on the other. When you get to issue 2, this is where it differs from level 1 and 2. Level 1 and 2, you have to do the practical examination. For level 3, you have the option of doing the theory examination for recertification or a recertification by points. Okay, and so this uses the same criteria, it just requires points in different areas. Again, we'll see that as we progress through. Okay. And again, whenever you see the term recertification, that will retain your certificate on an issue 1. Okay. Whereas as soon as you move on to an issue 2, in 5 years' time, you will have to do recertification. So to look through this, the application checklist. Okay, so check that the application is correct. No significant interruption in employment. And down at the bottom here, we've got a continuous period in excess of 1 year or 2 or more periods for a total time exceeding 2 years. So the continuous employment is fairly flexible. Evidence of acceptable visual acuity. So typical 12-monthly near vision, colour vision test. Possibly shades of grey as well. Evidence to demonstrate that you have achieved the minimum number of points required for certification renewal. Okay, again, so that's where if you haven't supplied that evidence, just be prepared that we may come back and ask for the evidence, things like reports or signed statements from management to verify what you put down on that form is correct. Another thing is that you have at least 6 weeks remaining on your current certificate. That's just to ensure that this whole process is complete, and if the information is not satisfactory, it gives you a small grace period to try and get the recertification examination done before your certificate expires, and then payment. Okay, so this form is related to the level 2. So as we can see at the top here, this is form R2R. For level 1, it'll be 1R, and for level 3, depending whether you're doing renewal or recertification, it will be 3RA or 3RB. They're all contained within the same document, which was not true previously. CP16, CP17 stood side by side, but now they've all been amalgamated into one. Technicians complete this form with eligible points associated with table C2, which is within the same document. We'll see that in a second. And the employer sponsor must review this form and sign off that this information is both accurate and true. Okay, so we'll work our way through some of these bits in a bit more detail. So this is the table C2 that details how many points you need to have. And again, this is pulled from that earlier table that is in ISO 9712. Okay, so we need a minimum of 100 points over the 5-year period of certification and a minimum of 75 points associated with Part A, so these top 5 sections. For levels 1 and 2, there is no minimum associated with Part B. Okay. For level 3, it gets separated out, and they want some to do with Part A and some points to do with Part B. I think it's about 70 points up here and 30 points down here. So this is the number of points that can be claimed per activity event. Following suit with ISO 9712, interpretation is taken as being, well, for 1 day, we're looking at 7 hours. Now, it has been queried in the past that participation in a technical seminar, these aren't always 7 hours, so they're more per event. Okay. We've got the maximum number of points you can achieve from these sections per year. And we've got an example conducting UT in the workplace, up to 25 points per year, 2 points per day, and so that equates to 12.5 days of UT per year in order to maximize those points. Now, obviously, this is over 5 years, so if you did that over 5 years, that'd be 125 points, but unfortunately, it only takes 95 points into account. And so that works out to be 9.5 days average per year or in the method to achieve that 95 points. So why only 9.5 days per year? And I believe it's because in 9712 they're promoting continued professional development. They want to see that people are extending their knowledge and participating in other events to do so. Okay, so if we highlights there, repeating the same duties is not always considered to be development. Okay, so performance of practical NDT activities in the method. So these are different ways in which this can be detailed. A confirmation of the candidate's work activities by a certified individual or referee. Confirmation of the level of activity of the individual given method. And it even goes down further. The most common one we have here is the sample NDT reports. And it's not always possible to provide NDT reports if the client won't release the information or the information is classified. There are other ways to work around that. I would just say to contact us and we'll direct you on the best way to manage that. Often it's getting a written statement from the level 3 supervisor who can then attest that yes, you have completed all of these inspections. Okay, so from CP16 again, we've got table C2A, which gives some information about the evidence required. So I have had quite a few queries to do with what do I need to provide. I've been asked for evidence. So it's quite useful, this table. If you do have any issues with providing some of the information on this table, please do get in touch with us. We're here to help you try and work your way through this process. So performance of practical NDT activities in the method, again, a record from the employer. Now, record, usually the easiest way to do that is a report. If there's confidential information in there, then you can redact certain parts of the report as long as the technical content of what the inspection involved is in there, the dates, your signature. But client-specific details can be omitted. Again, in the event that you can't supply any of those reports, if they are, as with some companies, classified documents, then again, you can get in touch with us and you can get, there are ways to work around that. Completion of continuation theoretical training, I think. Yes, there are different slides on these. So, you can get additional points, continuation of theoretical training or continuation of practical training. And the easy way to do that is if you do that at an ATO, then the ATO will provide you with a training certificate on detailing exactly how many days training you've done, what the course syllabus was, what content was covered. But it doesn't necessarily need to be an ATO. Okay, as the second bullet point there says, it could be employer-based training. So if you've got some official employer-based training going on, then as long as it's well documented, the employer produces a certificate, as I would imagine they would do in terms of their own quality system, then that can again be submitted as evidence. Delivery of training in the method. Sometimes people believe that this one is mainly to do with the ATOs, the training organisations, and it's got to be an official course. Now, that makes it easier in a sense because there will be records of that training. but it can also be internal employer-based training. If you've been given the responsibility to pass on some training as part of an ongoing training package to your own employees, or if you're assisting to do with somebody's NDT apprenticeship, then again that time can be used, and again suitable documents to show that you were involved in that just supplied. Participation in research activities. So these are less common, but if you have provided some research, published articles, some of the NDT degree coursework and procedural reviews, they all count as well. Participation in technical seminars, papers. So again, normally you would receive some sort of acknowledgement to say that you've attended, and so again, provision of that as evidence will suffice. If you present a technical seminar or paper, if you have to just be careful with the points on that bit, because if it's all your own work, then you get the full points. But if you've worked alongside someone else and you're presenting it together, then you get half of the points for that. And then at the bottom here, we also have current individual membership in NDT or an NDT related society. Now that isn't always a BINDT membership. It could be, as it's got there, ASNT, ASME. As long as it's in the general kind of engineering sector in which we operate, then the Engineering Council, the Institute of Mechanical Engineers, ASME would all count towards that as well. Now, in terms of the BINDT one, that only it doesn't have to be the full membership. Affiliate membership would be fine. And I believe that costs in the region of £20 for as an admin fee, and that's it. And so by using that one, that gets you 2 points per year, 5 points in total. So that's an easy way of getting that one as well. Technical oversight and mentoring in the method. So this is quite a common one that's often overlooked, but just mentoring a colleague. If somebody's gaining their own experience in a method and you're assisting them with that, then make a note of it as you're providing that experience, and then ideally have them countersign any test reports as evidence for themselves that they've been doing that training, and they can use those reports for their own evidence for achieving the certification, and you can use those reports as well as evidence of your mentoring. Participation or convenership in standardization of technical committees. Okay, so again, attending BINDT's own technical committees would count for that. Also, you could possibly use attending and assisting with the BINDT's working groups. It doesn't specifically have to be BINDT. If you're working on committees for other NDT schemes, if you're on ASNT committees or something like that, then again, that also counts. And then the final one is a technical role within the certification body. So that's because myself and my colleagues, we do some functions that are quite different in terms of we are involved in developing the scheme, putting new questions in place, audits and complaint handling as well. Where, again, we have to investigate how people perhaps not doing what they should be doing within their methods. Okay, so just to finish off, we've just got some examples here of how these points can be accrued. And so again, for levels 1, 2, and I believe a level 3 renewal, most of the points are going to be coming from part A. But for levels 1 and 2, you can use a bit of both if you like. So this one, 47.5 days of UT over the 5 years gives you the maximum 95 points. And then if you attended a theoretical training course for 1 day, then that just gives you an extra 5 points, meaning you've got your 100-point total. So again, inspection reports for the first one, or if they're not available, some sort of written signed statement from the kind of senior level 3 to attest that what you've documented is true and accurate and give some background information. And in terms of the 1 day course, if it was at an ATO, then they would of course give you a training certificate. If you did that internally, something from your quality management team to attest that you have sat that course internally. Second example here. So again, I'm stuck with putting the 95 points in for Part A because certainly everybody I've ever come across has been using the method frequently enough to attract the full 95 points there. But in order to get the other 5 points, again, tends to be 5 technical 1 day seminars okay, over the 5 year period. Does it all have to be 1 per year? So you've got there, you can have 2 per year, so you can have 2, 2, and a 1, and that will get you the extra 5 points. And again, often the easiest one is to have a membership of an organisation, okay, such as the BINDT affiliate member being the most the cost effective, I suppose. But that is over the 5 year period. So if you're already kind of 3 years in and you get the membership now, then that's still only going to get you 2 points. So be careful with that one. Okay, and so well, that's the end of this CP16 part. One thing that I would ask is that it's great to have so many people. I think the last time I looked, there was 125 attendees to this meeting, which is great to see. But it is a small proportion of the NDT community, and it's often quite difficult to get this information out to the wider community. So I would really appreciate if you could pass any of this information on and help others and guide others through the process. But we can always be contacted. There's we've had our emails before. There's also a technical email address. Well, other than that, thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much for that, Howard. Appreciate that. Is somebody going to go through, as the talk's been going on, there's been a lot of questions being asked and answers given. Does somebody want to go through them to start with, to go through the questions were asked and the responses, so that people can hear what was asked and what the answers was? Are you going to do that, Jen, Tracy? I see you've been busy responding to answers, responding to questions.
We have, Gary. We've had quite a few. We've had things like, can you get points from just Part A? The answer is yeah. 95 points can come from the NDT activities, which is number 1, but the rest of them can be made up from Part A or B. We've had a question about self-employed contractors. Excuse me. During busy periods where they use procedures in terms of authorising an individual's PCN certificate, especially if they're moving from contract to contract, we review all certificates, carry out audit, but do we need a formal process in place? We've stated that we would expect to see a procedure in place to cover the verification of certification and authorisation to operate on your behalf. What else have we? We've had some that are quite similar. What was the one? It was about the report, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, for people that are unable to provide reports to us, if they do let us know, we do have a form that can be completed by their employer or the person that they're contracting for, where the report number is required, a brief description of what they've done and how many days they did it for, and then that is signed off by the person that's authorising the form.
And we've also put on the website where you can find the CP16 document on the PCN24 page. There is an FAQ sheet. There's also a slideshow where you can see examples of these reports and download them as necessary. There were questions about online portals and online use. There is a big IT project at the moment which is in development within BINDT. So it's a module for our database in collaboration with a website update. It's a lot of work, but it is happening in the background. So what we intend to achieve is a renewal wizard. We intend it to link to BINDT CPD, the online CPD process that's available to PCN holders and members and anyone really. And also a portal where you can view the progress of applications. So that's something that we're working on, but it is a lot of work, so it's not going to happen overnight. We'll have probably updates by the end of the year on how that's progressing.
We've had questions about membership. Like Howard said, anyone that wishes to become a member, if that would give you points for or however many years you've held it or going forward. For an affiliate membership, it is £20 one-off fee. Any other memberships, we accept NDT related memberships as well, as long as we're provided with correspondence that shows how long someone has been a member for. We've got some unanswered ones. We've got some open questions.
I can't see them.
There's quite a few come through on the Q&A now.
Yeah. So,
do you want to start with Victoria Saddle at the top? I was off work for 8 months on maternity leave. This impacts the 1 year for me. Anything I can do about that?
We've had that situation before. I mean, 8 months is not a significant interruption. That would be 12 months or more. So what I would suggest is that you email in to PCN Renewals, which is we'll put the email address in the section in a minute. And if you contact them directly, they'll give you exactly the guidance that you need, Victoria. Yes, you do pick up points for this session. That would go under activity
6. Activity 6. Mentoring does count. It's 2 points per mentee per year. It's mentoring in the method, and we can provide you with correspondence that your employer can complete with a table of the information that we require. Someone's asked about 95 points. So it's a minimum of 100 overall. You can claim a maximum of 95 through activity 1, but the remaining 5 points can be made up through part A, part B, or both.
17A will be reviewed. There's a project for that since the 4179 has just been released at the start of this year. So we're actually reviewing the PCN aerospace scheme along with the CP17A. All the things keep disappearing. With affiliate membership, could you have the option to pay for a 5-year period rather than the 20? It's free so you pay £20 administration and then you continue to be an affiliate member on a free basis.
It's a one-off fee.
Could you briefly explain the mentoring aspect again in terms of how this proved?
So some companies have documentary evidence which they send to us showing mentoring. They have their own internal forms that they complete for mentoring, which are then sent to us. Alternatively, we do have a form which we can send you for mentoring with the information that is required. Do we think the current?
Well, I'm looking at your point, David, how in terms of the point system, this was mandated by the 9712 committee. As you know, we based it off surveillances prior to that. But unfortunately, we've got this new point system that we now have to gain extra 5 points of other just to prove other CPD. It's something that we understand the technicians are frustrated with, but unfortunately we're prescribed to do it, so we have to ask for those additional 5 points.
Just in relation to that, sorry, the question's disappeared now.
It's gone.
It's gone. There was something I was going to add to it, but I can't because it's gone. There are other ways to make up the 5 points, as Howard has explained. For anybody struggling to make up the 5, you can become an affiliate member, and you can also do our online product technology course, which will give you 4 points. There is a one-off fee of £60 plus VAT, but for those technicians who take it out, it will be valid for 5 years. So if other certification is due for renewal, then it can be used towards those as well. Patrick Myers, you are not an affiliate member if you hold PCN certificate. If you wish to hold affiliate membership, you do have to pay the one-off fee. Anybody that requires any membership details, if you can contact PCN at BINDT.org, and we will send you to the appropriate department.
Membership details, if you go to our website, there is a membership tab at the top of the screen, and it will provide you with a form to complete for affiliate membership.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we've gone over our time already, but I'd like to thank everybody for their presentations and thank you everybody for their participation.